Hello and welcome to Beeb's Bonsai. Beeb's here, and today what we're going to be doing is bending and styling this Pinus Flexilis. It is a white pine, 5 needle, very similar to the Japanese white pine. Very flexible, very bendable, but that also means we've got to leave our wire on for a very long time, probably 2 to 3 years. You're going to have to put wire on when it grows, take it off, put it back on, but that's what we're going to be doing today. Now, what I've done is I've let the candles grow out on this tree quite a bit. And the reason is we've got this long leggy main trunk here that we need to get back budding on. Absolutely have to. Without back budding, it's just one long spindly branch. It looks like Charlie Brown's Christmas tree. So we're gonna work on that. That's the first thing we're gonna do. Then we're gonna put some raffia on it, and then we're actually gonna bend it. Now, before we get into the main work on this tree, there's a few things that should be noted. One is the style that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing the traditional Japanese Fukunagashi style, which is essentially a windswept tree. And with a windswept tree, you want to have all the direction of your tree going the same way. So basically, your main branches and trunks are all going to be bent that way towards whatever direction the wind is going, and so is all of your foliage. But that's a quick intro. We're going to get started, and hope you guys enjoyed the video. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do with this is reduce the candles. The candles have been growing for a couple years now, and I did that so that this tree would produce back buds. And it has started to show signs of it because it's gotten a lot of strength at that apical tip and going down the branch. So now what I'm going to do is cut off this candle up here, and I'm also going to cut off these candles in here, so that it balances the energy of the tree, and that this branch, which is getting a lot of energy up to that apical tip, is going to back bud in here, hopefully. And that's the goal. So let's start. Now, an important thing here, and I'm noticing it inside, there's a couple of additional candles that are down in there. So I'm going to keep those candles hoping for a split, but I'm going to leave about 3/4 of an inch. Just like that. Now with pines, it's very important, if you're going to decandle, that you do not go down to the woody part, because if you do, it's going to kill the tree. So now we're going to move along. We're going to keep doing that. Just taking off the tips, make sure you leave a decent amount of growth. This guy in here is small. I'm not going to touch that. I could cut off the very tip, but I don't want to lose that potential candle. So moving around the tree, here's another one. And this one, just because I want to get a little extra growth here, I'm just going to get the very tip of the candle. And what cutting the tips of these candles does, there's a hormone in the tip of the candle called auxin. And what auxin does is it suppresses growth down the branch. So the tip says, hey, feed me, give me all your energy. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that tip away so all that energy redirects down into the branches and back buds. We got another one here. This one has good extension, which means it's very strong. I'm going to cut this one a little more harshly. I'm going to cut it right here. This tree is actually a graft. This is a white or a Pinus Flexilis on a black pine base. You can see the graft mark there. It's a pretty ugly scar. So in order to help that heal quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take adhesive aluminum tape and I'm going to wrap it around the tree at the point of that graft. Now it's going to do two things. One, it's going to protect it from any kind of fungal infections and or pests. And two, what the tree will do is this will help it heal over. And now we can move on to raffia. So what we've got here is raffia. Now the point of raffia is to protect from splitting when you're doing heavy bending. So what you do is you take these individual strands, you tie them into a knot. take about 4 or 5 strands and then put it in a bucket of water, let it soak up the water, squeeze it out, and then we'll start. So now we're going to start to add our raffia. Now when you start your raffia, this is the hardest part, is to get the start down. What you're going to do, I'm actually going to clip this a little shorter. What you're going to do is you're going to lay this on the tree and you're going to start to bring it around. You're going to lay this part right here, my hand's blocking, sorry. You're going to lay this part flat on the trunk. And then you're going to wire over it, or not wire, but raffia over it, as tight as you can every time, a couple of times. Then you're just going to continue this up the tree, making sure you avoid doing what I just did, which is catching the needles under, and making sure you don't accidentally pull down any of the branches or knock off any of these small adventitious buds. And this is going to be the most tedious part of what I'm doing today. It's going to take some time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue this work and then we'll bring you back after I'm done. So this is a bit of a difficult spot here. We've got a raffia up and around this spot, but in here we've got a lot of back buds. You can see them, there's all kinds of needles. So there's 2 options. One is to remove some of the back buds to give myself room to put raffia on, or 2, skip this section in raffia and move on to about here, going up the tree. Because I really want to make sure I protect this area and I'm going to have to wire anyway, I'm going to remove a few of these weaker buds. In fact, I see a few that are almost falling off. So I'm going to remove a few just so that I have room to do this work. And when I'm pulling these, I'm being sure not to miss or not to pull off the stem with them. I'm just pulling off the needles themselves, because it's quite possible that with this extra redirection of energy down here, that these will still produce back buds. Now that we've got the raffia done, got everything up on this tree, a couple points of notice here. I had some difficulty going around the buds. I didn't want to break them. So it's a little loose in here, but that's basically the path our wire is going to follow, so it should be okay. So what we're going to do, we've got some wire here. This is 2mm copper wire. It's annealed copper. That's very important because it makes it to where when you're moving the wire to bend it in place, it's easy. And when it's done and it cools, that's when it sets and gets rigid. So we're going to start. Now this tree, ideally you'd have an extra branch back down here or something to tie off to. I could secure here, but that's a little weak. If it gets too much stress when I'm bending, this might snap. So what I'm going to do, and this is your other option, I'm going to take the wire, let's see if I can get a good angle on this. I'm going to take the wire in here on this side, depending on where you want to go, and you're going to shove it into the ground until it's secure. It doesn't have to be perfect, it can wiggle a little, but the key is that you want to have it in there into the root ball so that the roots grow around it and cause it to grow steadier. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to get the piece. So what you want to do is you want to line up, you want to take, for a beginner, I'm pretty new at this myself, but for a beginner, you want to take leave about 5 inches to drop into your pot depending on the depth, maybe 4, and then you want to leave maybe an extra fifth, 20% of your length to account for the bending. So I'm going to take it about here to make sure that I don't run out of wire, because if you run out of wire after it's on the tree, then you got a real problem, because you got to unwire it and you're going to lose this whole piece instead of cutting off maybe this much at the end. So I'm trying to reorient myself here. The front of the tree is going to be about there. So right about here is going to be the front. Maybe actually a little bit that way. What you're trying to do, I want the tree to come towards the viewer, invite him in, and then everything's going to sweep. So I'm going to be bending kind of like this, except, oops, I just knocked the needle off, with the tip down like that and out. So what I want to do is I want to wrap in the direction that I'm going to be turning. So since I'm going to be torquing this way, I'm going to wrap in a, that would be a, I'm trying to think, a counterclockwise direction around the tree. So we're going to start in the back, just to show you. I'm going to start in the back here. Going to dig our wire in until we feel it secure. It's pretty secure. And then right immediately coming out, we're going to start, and you want to go on a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to start. And one point to note here, you've got your active hand, which is my right hand, moving the wire. Your passive hand is my left hand down here. So what my passive hand is going to be doing is it's going to be holding on to 2 coils of the wire. Now I noticed a mistake that I made when I started. We're going to have to rectify. It was going up too vertically at the beginning. So immediately I want to start down, and then I want to bring it back here. And now I've got a good secure spot. It's very tight to the trunk. So now we can just start bending. And ideally, when you bend and place your wire on, you want it to be at a 45-degree angle on the trunk or the branch that you're wiring. Now, obviously, that's in a perfect world. You're going to have spots. I'm going to have spots here even where that's not possible. But in a perfect world, that should be very possible. I'm sorry if I'm getting a little janky on the angle here, but it's very difficult to work from one side when you got to be aware of all this stuff. So here's a good point here to stop. Why am I stopping to show you this? We've got 3 branches. We got 1, 2, 3, all coming off in the same spot. Now I've set up my wire so that I'm pretty much going to miss all 3. But in this case, you might have to adjust where you're moving. You might have to come around this side or cut it short and then go to a 30-degree angle to get around. I'm in a pretty good spot, so I'm just going to keep going. But for those of you that are just starting, that is a good thing to see, because there are going to be times, like right here, I got to cut this short. I got to cut this very short here on the angle. So I'm going to pull down. I'm going to try to miss all my foliage here. I'm going to hold, and I'm right there on the raffia. And again, it's very important that you're tight to the trunk that you're bending, or the branch. I keep saying trunk, but really trunks, branches, whatever it may be. Okay, so I've done exactly what I said not to do. I'm short on wire. You got 2 options. One, you can remove all the wire you've put on, which is going to be very difficult to do and you're going to lose a lot of copper. Or you can go, especially here where we're starting to get a lot of taper, I'm going to reduce to a 1.5 millimeter, and I'm going to go right along my current line of wire through these 2 loops, and that'll anchor it tight. It's not ideal, but it's what I have to do at this point. So we completed the wiring process. Took a little longer than I thought. Relatively new to wiring, so I'm hoping I did a good job here, but here's what we're gonna do. Our front of our tree is right about here. So what we wanna do, bend, there we go, about here, okay. And then out here, we're gonna take this end, we're gonna bring it up just a little bit, and then out towards the tip, we're gonna point it more laterally. Now back here, I have an option to get it moving more vertically, and I'm gonna take that option. Get this tree moving a bit more vertical up out of the soil. You wanna push slowly, very slowly, and see where and if it's gonna crack. Haven't heard anything yet. I'm gonna go a little more on the tip down. You always wanna hold at your bend and push. That looks pretty good there. Now, if I get down level, again, this is about our front. Okay. I wanna get more vertical movement in here. And turn more lateral movement here. And now, instead of it being all droopy and kind of off-centered there, this is gonna pull up, follow the trunk line all along here like it's windswept, it's coming out to you. We can actually add a bend back. And again, these trees are super flexible, these limber pines. Before they snap, they'll actually rip apart. So one, you got to use enough wire, and two, you got to leave it on for long enough. Now we're going to try to get our apex here. Always want to have your apex slightly up and back to the front, if you can. Okay. I like it. I think that's good. Probably on a bit more of an angle this way to get the length of the tree. Now this one, we got this is by far our longest secondary branch. So what I'm gonna do is right about here, get in on that, right about here I want it to bend down and out. So basically I just want the tip. Okay, I'm gonna restart. So what I wanna do here is I wanna take this secondary branch, well I guess it's a primary branch, but it's the second in size, and I wanna get it bending that way. So what I'm just gonna do, you're not gonna be able to see it when I'm making the bend, is right in here, right before we get to the end here, I'm just gonna add a little bend. And then, to make that more, I guess, effective, I'm gonna come in here and do the same thing. Okay, we're gonna bring this just a tad bit forward on that same bend. And I think that looks pretty good right there. Okay, so we've done our structural wiring, got our raffia on under it to keep it safe and protected. And I didn't do a detailed wiring on this just because I don't know what buds I'm gonna save, what's gonna grow out. I tried to put as little wire as I could on this tree to leave space for these buds and candles to pop. So got our basic structure, everything is going that way on the tree. If we look at this as our front, we got the trunk coming towards you, bending back a bit, but everything is windswept in that direction. This I'll do at a later date, but that too will also go in this direction. But as for today, our work is done. Thank you for watching Beeb's Bonsai, and I hope you guys have a great day. Like, comment, and subscribe below. Let me know if you have any other tips and tricks or questions. Thank you. Have a good one.